Welcome back. You're listening to Digital Asia Radio, the autoethnographic radio station, dealing with an autoethnographic study of my experiences in Japanese and Korean pop music. Moving on from the anime soundtracks, I next want to look at a band that is a hybrid mashup of cute Japanese pop and metal, and they're called BabyMetal. And what I found interesting when I first heard BabyMetal is that it's quite unapologetically faithful to both the genres of music at the same time. So it's got very catchy pop hooks and things, but it also really is quite heavy, and it employs a lot of real heavy metal musicians to make the backing tracks. And I find this interesting because, from my perspective, I was brought up to see pop and metal as as sort of clashing genres in terms of their sound and even the philosophies of the fandoms that support them. You don't often see a lot of overlap, and so it's a really sort of a niche genre, I would have thought, in my experiences. But it's actually quite obviously quite popular in Japan. And as well as that, it seems to be garnering quite a lot of global attention. I wanted to talk to you about a particular BabyMetal song, which I'll play later, called Megitsune. And it was the one that really won me over to BabyMetal as a group. And after I listened to it a number of times, I sort of realized what drew me to it so much. And it borrows a tune from traditional Japanese folk music. This song called Sakura, which is it's known as the Cherry Blossom Song. And it's my understanding that this song represents the blossoming of the cherry blossom trees. And so it's a national traditional sort of song in Japan that reflects this cultural event. And what's interesting is because I identified with it because they actually used to sing that song on an episode of Play School that I used to actually watch quite a bit because it was on VHS. And suddenly, when I realized this, it took on this other dimension, this song, that was actually quite personal for me. Even though I didn't speak the language, so I had no idea what the lyrical content of the song was, although I've since discovered what it is, and I'll get back to that later. Yeah, I felt myself drawn to it quite closely, and it was interesting because there was this element of this contemporary song that was not only deeply rooted in traditional Japanese culture, but that somehow found its place being deeply rooted in my childhood, which is strange as an Australian. And it made me realize that up until this point, I'd viewed J-pop in relation to American pop quite a lot. I acknowledged that it was different, but at the same time, I guess I imagined that it was drawn or borrowed from the source material, which I saw to be American pop music and rock music. But I never really considered that there were also traditional cultural elements that were local to Japan that J-pop could also be drawing on. This really shifted and forced me to question my assumptions and understandings of how music works in a global sense, particularly between Japan and the US. I've since actually discovered quite recently that the song is actually draws heavily from actually a Japanese folk story, which, without getting into too much detail, deals with a mythology kind of thing where there's a spirit, a fox spirit who takes on the form of a lady, and the song evokes that image of the relationship between a woman who changes her forms and explores this idea of what womanhood actually means in Japanese culture and what it means just in a contemporary sense. So it's actually, there's a sort of a feminist element to this song, talking about women as being dynamic, as being transformative, um, as being actresses in this stage, capable of maintaining many parts. So there's a sort of a feminist empowerment to it as well that I wasn't aware of because I didn't have that initial access to the language. Before I play the BabyMetal Megitsune, I'm actually going to play the traditional Sakura song upon which it is based. So you can get a clear understanding of how they're related.